Tune in tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight.
Tonight, we'll take 10 to talk about Sundays, the only day you're legally allowed to drink another person's blood. As any Minnesotan over 21 with a functioning liver knows, state law prohibits bottled alcohol sales on Sundays, forcing surly uncles statewide to book it to the Wisconsin border to pick up a six-pack of Miller Lite in preparation for their nephew's 5th birthday party. You're a man now, Timmy? No, celebrate like one. Now, it's been this way for a while. Following the repeal of Prohibition in 1933, Minnesota quickly outlawed Sunday alcohol sales. And aside from some minor changes, such as allowing bars to be open and people to purchase take-home growlers of beer, to this day, Minnesota remains one of the only 12 states that outlaw Sunday liquor sales. And 83 years later, it is still one of the most hated laws in the state, right after the Everyone Must Lick former Governor Jesse Ventura's Bald Head Act, which was made a law 5 years after he left office. Now, in 2015, we were the closest we have ever been to legalizing Sunday alcohol sales, but the change was ultimately voted down in the Senate 57-75, which is surprising, but keep in mind that this vote was held on Thirsty Thursday, a mandatory drinking day passed by the Senate the year before. Reasonable outcome then. So, to many Minnesotans, repealing Sunday alcohol restrictions seems like an obvious legislative slam dunk. Nearly 2/3 of Minnesotans support repealing the law, meaning it would be almost as popular as if the state gave every resident a free perma puppy, a puppy that never ages. Or if they legalized pedal pub hit and runs. Because, let's be real, you don't get to have the obnoxiousness of a drunk with the superiority of a biker without expecting a hit. But when you start to look at the facts, the issue gets a little bit more complicated than it seems, much like a drunk person navigating stairs or figuring out which remote works the TV in your dad's midlife crisis man cave. Click the wrong one and a poster of Asia the band might turn around from a bookcase. But now the first complication is the issue of religion. The reason that Sunday was the day chosen to ban alcohol sales is because it is the traditional Christian day of rest, which opponents say illustrates clear state bias towards Christianity, violating the constitutional separation between church and state. But for all of our talk of the separation of church and state, much like Fox News or the letter T, many of Minnesota's laws are not so secretly influenced by Christianity. You're welcome. That is why in St. Paul, a giant cathedral complete with a marble Jesus overlooks the state capitol building, outstretching his arms for a warm but firm Leviticus-centered hug. Christianity has been such an important part of Minnesota legal history that in 1967, the state outlawed the sale of more than 32 different items on Sundays, including musical instruments, clocks, furs, floor coverings, and lawnmowers. Listen, I get it. You're a Christian on a Sunday trying to pray when all of a sudden your atheist neighbor jumps on their recently purchased lawnmower and starts wailing Careless Whisper on a sax. And honestly, your only solace is to remind yourself that at least Kenny G is going to hell. And if you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, Kenny G didn't write Careless Whisper, George Michael did, don't worry, you're also going to hell. The state of Minnesota has argued that these restrictions are less religious and more to institute a common day of rest. And that sounds nice. It would be wonderful if we could just take a day as a state to fart and take naps. But let's change Sunday to fart day. I mean, we've been holding them all week while we were at work. We gotta let them out sometime. It's only reasonable. But let's ask what Minnesota State Senator and active churchgoer Roger Reinert has to say about it.
Minnesota still have this ban?
Well, certainly it's part of a blue law heritage that a lot of states used to have, wanting to protect Sunday as a day of rest out of religious convictions. I'm an active churchgoer, proud of my congregation, but I think frankly in a 21st century economy, a lot of things happen on Sundays that didn't used to, and even though I might not make that purchase on Sunday, we ought to allow it for people who would like to.
And that's true. It's hardly a day of rest when literally almost any other business is open, because every Walmart employee is awake and holding in their farts, so why shouldn't liquor store employees too? Second is the issue of personal liberty, an issue that is usually brought up either by someone whose personal liberty is being oppressed or by a college sophomore who wears a suit to class and sleeps with their copy of The Fountainhead. Just hear what local author Mary Stanek has to say about the restrictions to Sunday liquor sales.
In Minnesota, you can do almost anything you want on a Sunday. Watch porn on the internet. Bear false witness against your neighbor.
And while that's technically true, based on how she said it, she might have done all of those things right before making that video. Anyway, in Minnesota, alcohol remains one of the only consumer items where purchase is restricted by day of the week, but it is nowhere near the only restriction to buying alcohol.
Liquor retailers supporting a Sunday ban say it's only one of many alcohol restrictions, including what days it can be sold, what time of day, where it can be bought, who can sell it, and where it can be consumed.
Yes, buying and selling alcohol in Minnesota is a highly regulated business. Almost as regulated as taking a shit in North Carolina, where Governor Pat McCrory needs to personally look at your genitals every time you need to drop a deuce. Yet all these laws exist because alcohol is a drug, something you can easily forget, but quickly remember when you're throwing up that fifth Corona Rita in a Chili's parking lot. And the biggest issue is the money. Both sides of this debate say we are going to lose money if we legalize Sunday liquor sales or not. The Minnesota Consumers First Alliance, a group that advocates for Sunday sales, estimates that the state of Minnesota would gain nearly $10 million in annual tax revenue in alcohol purchased within the state. Because right now, Minnesotans can go literally anywhere else along the state's borders to purchase alcohol on Sundays. Even some go to Canada. Canada! Look, Americans should never have to go to Canada just to buy booze. They should only go there if they are escaping the draft, need affordable health care, or are a liberal who actually stays true to their word after Trump becomes president. However, the very people who are pushing the hardest for not allowing alcohol sales on Sundays are the people who are selling the alcohol. Many organizations advocating for small and independent liquor stores worry that if customers have the opportunity to buy liquor on Sundays, they would just buy the same amount of products over a 7-day period instead of a 6-day period, forcing them to pay the same more to stay open without making any more money. Some say this might even force small liquor stores to close, putting some people out of jobs, or even worse, forcing 18-year-olds with half-assed fakes to find other ways to get booze before Morgan's Rager. Now, after researching for the show, we honestly don't know whether Sunday liquor restrictions should be repealed or not, but honestly, it may not matter because many legal analysts predict that this law may be gone because of one thing: the Super Bowl. Legislators, including Republican Speaker of the House, Kurt Doudt, have hinted that next year will usher in legal Sunday alcohol sales just in time for the 2008 Super Bowl, the first to be played in the House of Sauron. That's right, all the complexity of liquor store economics, state revenues, and the convoluted history of Christian influence on politics won't matter shit when people need to get booze right before they watch 22 large adult men give each other concussion hugs. Basically, over 80 years of legal debate will be as meaningless as the lives of birds will be meaningless to the glass of the US Bank Stadium. So no matter what you worship, whether it's Jesus, football, or the careless whisper of Kenny G farting right before taking a nap, get ready to forget Sundays just like the rest of them. Thank you. I'm John Gershberg. Stay nice, Minnesota.
Woo! Minnesota tonight. Yeah. Tune in. Minnesota tonight. Tune in. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight. Minnesota tonight.